All right. Fantastic. All right, so welcome everyone. Oh, you go.
No.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
All you.
I'm so sorry. Welcome everyone to the third Sustainability Forum of 2023. We are always appreciative of our partner AADL that I just caught off. I'm Hannah Peplinski. I'm working with the City of Ann Arbor, and over there is my colleague, Zach Wass-Smith, who is also a community engagement specialist at the City of Ann Arbor Office of Sustainability and Innovation. Today, we will be specifically talking about home electrification, and our very long, windy title is Recharged Home Electrification, New Funding and Opportunities for Electrifying Your Space. And we're so happy that everyone was able to make it out today. I know that we have struggled to have a hybrid event the previous forums just because of weather. So we're so excited to see people in person and virtual. So we're going to kick off today. Well, actually, before we begin, I do want to highlight a couple upcoming events. We do have a Home Electrification Expo Friday, August 11th from 4 to 9:30 at the Ann Arbor Farmers Market. So that will be a chance to network with more individuals throughout the community about home electrification. You can directly connect with some contractors, which will be really cool. And then our next Sustainability Forum, which is going to be a month from now, the last Wednesday of April, is going to be Renewed Renewables, so the bright future of renewable energy in Ann Arbor. And tonight we will have Lauren Wieg from the Rocky Mountain Institute talking about the health implications of electrification and also the Inflation Reduction Act and how to take advantage of some of those financial resources. And then we'll have Brett Little from the Green Home Institute, and he'll be talking about home electrification technologies and also some personal experience he's had with transferring homes into the electrification space. And then we'll also have Pat Boyle from Michigan Saves talking about the process of contracting and funding your transition. And then also joining us today, we have two local contractors, Tom and Amanda, and they are available for any specific questions that you might have. And also if you would like to connect with them afterwards, I'm sure that they would be more than willing to answer any of those questions. So with that, I will pass it off to Lauren.
Hi, everybody. Is everyone able to hear me all right? Cool. I'll assume that quietness means you can hear me. Hello, my name is Lauren Wieg. I am from the Rocky Mountain Institute, where we do a lot of work on transforming the energy sector to be healthier, more climate aligned, and affordable for everyone. And today I am joining to talk a little bit about the health impacts and the health benefits of electrifying your spaces, and then kind of getting into a 101 of what are the incentives in the Inflation Reduction Act, and then hoping to pass it on to my fellow panelists for even deeper dives. So I'm going to share my screen. Please let me know if you cannot see this. But I also have the lengthy title, Recharged Home Electrification, New Funding and Opportunities to Electrify Your Space. And today we'll talk about the health impacts and IRA. So to get started, we're going to need to reduce our building emissions if we're going to meet our climate goals. And in Michigan, it's pretty clear that it's a priority. Ann Arbor has committed to carbon neutrality by 2030. Governor Whitmer announced plans for carbon neutrality by 2050. And President Biden announced a commitment to reduce emissions by 50 to 52% by 2030. So at the local, state, and national level, we're seeing big commitments to climate goals, and building emissions are a big part of that. But today, most of our buildings are polluting. They limit our ability to meet our climate goals, they perpetuate imprudent investments, and they're harmful to our health. To get into it a little bit, there's kind of three main ways a building has emissions. There's the operating emissions and then the construction emissions. So for operating, there's indirect and direct emissions. Indirect emissions are the emissions that come when you turn on a light bulb and you need electricity to light it. Well, that electricity is coming from a plant down the street. If that plant is a solar farm, then it's cleaner energy. If that plant is a coal or natural gas plant, then there's going to be emissions associated with that. The direct emissions are the emissions from within your home. So when you start up a gas furnace or you light your gas stove, those are going to be direct emissions burning in your house. And then there's embodied emissions. Those are the emissions that it took to create the materials in the building you're in. So for example, a certain amount of emissions takes to create concrete or create steel. And those materials are in the buildings and the homes that we live in. So those are considered embodied emissions. And today we're going to really focus on direct emissions because that has some of the biggest health impacts and the biggest incentives from the Inflation Reduction Act. And the Midwest is highly ranked for having a lot of natural gas delivery in buildings and therefore a lot of direct emissions. You can see 6 of the top dozen states are in the Midwest, and Michigan is the 4th highest state in the residential space and commercial space for natural gas delivery in buildings. And one of the main issues with direct emissions is that building emissions contain health-harming air pollutants. And although health-harming pollutants are bad everywhere, they are particularly harmful when they're inside your place of work or your place of residence. So fuel burning appliances can release various emissions, but there's 3 big ones that we note: carbon monoxide, nitrogen dioxide, and particulate matter. So what's carbon monoxide? This one I feel like is a common one that people are generally worried about. It's an odorless, invisible gas that can cause carbon monoxide poisoning, which is mild to moderate cases of flu-like symptoms. And they can, in serious cases, can result in death. Now, there is still studying the long-term impacts of low-level exposure to carbon monoxide, but we can expect to see more results on that coming soon. Nitrogen dioxide is a reddish-brown to colorless gas that can be also released in homes from natural gas leaks. Natural nitrogen dioxide can inflame the linings of lungs, and it's linked to asthma development and respiration symptom aggravation. A not so fun fact is also that nitrogen dioxide can react with sunlight and other chemicals in the air to create particulate matter, which commonly known as soot or smog, something that's pretty common in big cities. And then there's particulate matter, and this is an inhalable particulate matter that's less than 2.5 microns, basically really, really, really small pieces of solid matter. And they can penetrate the lungs and bloodstream, and it's linked to asthma, respiratory inflammation, and premature death. So this slide's super fun, and but it's the truth is that there are multiple chemicals that are released when you burn appliances or you have gas appliances in your home that can be seriously health harming, both from leaks in gas appliances, but also from regular use of gas appliances. So let's talk about the indoor air pollution aspects and the health aspects of this. So indoor air quality is often worse than outdoor air quality, which is concerning because we spend 90% of our times indoors. The EPA states that indoor pollutant levels may be 2 to 5 times or even as much as 100 times higher than outdoor levels. And homes with gas stoves had a 50 to 400% higher nitrogen dioxide emissions than homes with electric stoves. So there's a clear correlation that homes with gas stoves have higher percentages of health-harming pollutants. And in the United States, about 1 out of every 3 homes cook with gas, meaning there's a lot of homes and a lot of families that are interfacing with these health-harming pollutants inside their homes. And indoor nitrogen dioxide emissions from gas stoves often exceed outdoor standards. I had said that, but let's kind of look at the numbers. So the US national standard is about 1 hour average parts per billion being 100. When you are so that's the United States. In other places like Canada, that can be lower. or around that number. Now, what does that look like inside when you're using your appliances? Well, some studies have measured the nitrogen dioxide emissions from gas stoves. Just from baking a cake, we can see that number peak to 230. Roasting meat in an oven, 296. And when the gas cooktop with no food is on, we can see, or the oven, we can see that range from 82 to 546. So we can see these numbers are often higher indoors when we're using gas appliances than they would be safe legally outside. And living in a home with a gas stove increases the risk of asthma for children. There's a 42% increased risk of experiencing asthma symptoms, a 24% increased risk of being diagnosed with asthma by a doctor, and a 32% increased risk of experiencing symptoms and being diagnosed by a doctor. And we particularly call out children in this situation because they're more susceptible to air pollution. They have higher breathing rates and more physical activity. They have a higher lung surface to body ratio, given that they are small. And their immature lungs and immune systems aren't prepared to handle the pollutants as well as an adult body. Now, that does not mean that is not harmful to adults, just means that children are more susceptible to these air pollution risks. So what are the health effects of NO2 in children? Well, they can include learning deficits, irritated airways, increased susceptibility to lung infection, increased susceptibility to childhood asthma, aggravated respiratory symptoms, cardiovascular effects, and increased susceptibility to allergens. So there's clear evidence that gas appliances can have a harmful impact on both children and adults and the health impacts that they experience. And there's a bigger risk for low-income households and they may be at a higher risk of exposure to gas pollutants for numerous reasons. Low-income residents often have smaller unit sizes, more people in their homes, older homes with inadequate ventilation. Often homes are using stoves or ovens for supplemental heat, especially in cold climates, which Michigan certainly is one. Higher exposure to outdoor pollution, and a greater asthma burden. So all of these risks that we've talked about in the previous slides are seen to be greater in low-income communities for numerous reasons. Now that we've talked about indoor, let's talk about outdoor air pollution. NOx emissions and ozones so basically the government determines what outdoor air pollution standards exist, and if states become in non-attainment of those, they have to make a plan to be in attainment. And Michigan has some regions in Michigan, as you can see in this plot here, from the dashed lines. It means that there are parts of Michigan that are in non-attainment. And many of the top 25 most polluted cities in the US are in the Midwest, including the Detroit, Warren, and Ann Arbor area. And that is basically meaning that there's a high level of particulate matter in this area. And that is often from polluting buildings, but also an increased use of vehicles, and then just general weather patterns. But all that to say is that there is an increased risk of outdoor air pollution health impacts from these regions, including the Ann Arbor region. And asthma is a significant concern in the Midwest. The Midwest is home to 6 of the top 20 cities, of which Detroit, Michigan is number 15 on that list. And again, although certainly not the only reason, gas stoves have been seen to contribute to increased risk in asthma. So what's the solution? How can people support making at least their homes and buildings healthier? Well, whole home retrofits. What is that? We can get on to more positive things. A whole home retrofit basically is working to support a healthy, safety, and affordable home. That can look like replacing appliances with electric, non-polluting appliances. That can look like increasing ventilation, improving insulation so homes are more comfortable and resilient during extreme cold snaps or during grid failures. That can look like adding on-site renewable energy. etc. So really looking at the home as a holistic repair instead of doing one-off upgrades. But let's actually talk about what a whole building retrofit is. We kind of think about it in 4 main categories. Health and safety. We need to make sure homes are healthy by making sure there's toxic chemicals have been removed from the home, roofs are repaired, there's no unsafe wiring, there's proper ventilation, mold and asbestos have been removed from the house. So that's like number 1 on the steps of upgrading a home. Next is weatherization, energy efficiency. So making sure the envelope of the building is efficient and resilient. That could look like increasing the air tightness, sealing holes and cracks in the room, in the home, improving or increasing insulation of homes. This is all to reduce energy use, make homes more resilient during extreme weather events, and to make them more affordable, because you don't need to run your heat as often if the heat stays in your home longer with better insulation. The third activity is appliance electrification, replacing fossil fuel appliances like gas stoves and furnaces with efficient electric alternatives like air source heat pumps, induction stoves, or geothermal heat pumps. This removes the emissions from in the home and supports more like healthier appliances and more efficient appliances compared to gas alternatives. And then finally, energy assistance, whether that's rooftop solar, whether that's community solar, or if affordability is of concern, working with utilities to have bill assistance or limits on energy burden is something that's very important to make sure that these retrofits are affordable. Now, although we call these out in different pieces, it's important to think of these as a package. Although it is, very reasonable and totally acceptable to do one of these at a time, if you have the means, doing these all together can really make sure the home is safe, affordable, and decarbonized. Now, I want to talk about 2 specific pieces, and that's the electric appliance pieces, the stoves, the heat pumps, and the water heaters, because these are really big pieces in the Inflation Reduction Act. So first, we'll talk about electric heating. So for space heating and cooling, that's going to look like a heat pump. And for water heating, it's going to look like a heat pump water heater. But these are efficient electric alternatives to the traditional gas or propane furnaces or water heaters that do not produce emissions within the home, are highly efficient and electric. And there's some benefits to installing electric appliances and electric HVAC system. They can adapt to new cooling needs, especially in the summers in the Midwest. I'm personally from Wisconsin, but a fellow Midwesterner. And the summers are still hot in the Midwest, even when it's cold in the winter. And so needing heat pumps allow you to have air conditioning. They work as both an air conditioner and a heating system. It improves air quality and eliminates combustion within the home. It enhances efficiency. It minimizes the health and safety concerns we previously talked about. It builds energy resilience, and it mitigates climate change. For homes with gas stoves, if you are unable to do an induction stove right now or an electric stove, what are your options? Well, you can install and maintain a carbon monoxide detector. You can run an exhaust hood while cooking, open a window while cooking, and cook on the back burners. If a full replacement of your gas stove is not possible, consider a plug-in induction stove. So for about $50, you can get like an induction hot plate that you can use. And those are, you can plug them into your kitchen outlet, set them on top of your existing stove, and you can use that. And that's a good trial run if you want to try switch into an electric or induction stove, or you just don't have the money right now to do that. So those are some options if replacing your stove right now is not easy. And all this to say is like climate and public health emergency is an urgent one, and it's something that we need to address now. So how can we address it? The Inflation Reduction Act, which can help us reduce costs. There's a lot of incentives in the Inflation Reduction Act that can be paired with local utility incentives to support bringing the costs down for upgrades. So the Inflation Reduction Act has been a paired with the CHIPS and Science Act and the infrastructure bill, have been a historic level of federal investment that's going to actually reach people in their homes and in their businesses. We're going to see about $50 billion in investment for buildings, and we're hoping to see 60 million metric tons of carbon dioxide reductions in 2030, which is really exciting for the climate space and also to get investments in buildings increased. So let's actually take a snapshot of what the building provisions look like for homeowners and individuals. So there's two kind of main camps. There's tax credits. So there's improvements to existing and additions to existing tax credits. These include new energy efficient homes. You can get up to $5,000 for new homes. You can get up to $2,000 for a heat pump in residential spaces. You can get up to $5 per square foot for upgrading commercial buildings. You can get 30% off of solar and geothermal projects in the residential space. And you can get 30% off or more for commercial clean energy projects. And then there are also rebate programs. So you can get up to $8,000 off a heat pump. You can get up to $840 off of a stove for electric rebates. And then there's an efficiency rebate called homes, where you can get up to $4,000 per unit to do efficiency measures, or $8,000 for low income people. These tax credits on half the screen, these are live right now and they can be accessed. The rebates, Michigan will likely have these ready to go by early 2024. So I want to take a minute to get a little deeper into a few of these, and then we'll pass it off to the next speaker. But for one of the tax credits, 25C, the energy efficient residential home, this one is currently live. And I just wanted to pause here to show that there's various funding that people can access. It's up to $2,000 for a heat pump. You can get $600 for panel electric upgrades, or money for exterior doors. And many of these do cover labor costs. And how you access these is you apply for a tax credit on your taxes. So you do need a tax appetite, but there's a form you can file on your taxes, the tax season after you install these appliances. So there's some incentives you can get here. There's a tax credit called 25D, where you can get 30% off solar PV, solar hot waters, geothermal heat pumps, battery storage, and these can be in new construction and retrofits. I will say roofing materials do not count, but I wanted to flag this as an opportunity. If people were interested in putting solar PV, you can get, or geothermal heat pumps or battery storage, you can get 30% off that project. And then we're going to go into two of the rebates. So these are rebates, again, they're going to be launching probably early 2024. But you can see here that here are some of the incentives people can get. They can get up to $8,000 off a heat pump, $1,700 off a heat pump water heater, $840 for an electric stove. And this is actually one of the only incentives available in Michigan for electric stoves. So that's going to be really helpful for people looking to replace that appliance. And then there's funding for breaker box upgrades, electric wiring, weatherization, and there's actually $500 kickback for contractors who do this work too. I'll flag that this rebate is for low and moderate income people. So people are only eligible for this one if you have 150% of the area median income. For those people who don't know if they are at that number or not, that's something that can be checked on the state website, and I can share that with people later if that's helpful. But this is a snapshot of how much people could get for replacing appliances starting in early 2024. And then finally, I'll talk about the last rebate, which is the homes efficiency rebate. So this one, this graph's a little bit confusing, but I'll break it down for us. Basically, the homes rebate cares about how much energy savings you're expected to reduce from your upgrades. So if you put in, if you seal a bunch of holes in your house, you put in insulation, etc., and you are determined, and there will be energy auditors who can support you doing this, and it's determined that your building saves between 20 and 35%. you can get up to $2,000 rebate or 50% of the project for single family homes, $2,000 per unit in multifamily homes, and then double those numbers if you are 150% of the area median income or a low income family. If your energy savings are 35% or more, that all those numbers double, so you could get up to $4,000 per unit for single and multifamily and $8,000 for low income people. And then there's an alternative method of measured, which is if you save 15%. Now I know all these, like, what does 20%, what does 35% mean? That's something that contractors and energy auditors will have guidance from the state to support people understanding these numbers. So I wanted to kind of end it here with, what does this mean for Michigan? Michigan's going to get, at minimum, $211 million from just the rebate programs, and they're expected to get even more from the tax credits. This could mean that 60,000 homes get electrification upgrades, 33,000 homes could get whole home efficiency upgrades just from the rebates alone. The tax credits are expected to mean Michigan could receive 185,000 incentivized heat pumps, 16,000 new efficient homes, and 3 million square feet of commercial space retrofitted, which, although that is obviously not the entire state, that's a significant portion of the state that can get lower cost incentives for upgrading their homes. So, in summary, gas appliances are harmful for human health, but the Inflation Reduction Act has incentives to make homes more efficient, healthier, safer, more affordable, and all electric. So with that, I thank you for the time. I will hand it back to Hannah, and I believe Brett is next.
Just as a retroactive introduction for Lauren, so she joined RMI Carbon Free Buildings team in 2021, and she currently works with cities and states throughout the Midwest to decarbonize and electrify the region's building stock. Besides broad building, decarbonization, and electrification policy, she's also focused on working with states across the country to most efficiently implement federal funding for buildings. Before coming to RMI, Lauren earned her master's in environmental and resources from UW-Madison with a focus on energy analysis and policy. In conjunction with her master's, she worked for Renew Wisconsin, where she focused on regulatory analysis of clean energy in Wisconsin. And now we're going to be transitioning into Brett Little's presentation. So Brett lives with his wife and his son in Grand Rapids, Michigan, over on the west side of the state, in a Green Star Bronze certified remodeled home that is 90 years old. He is passionate about sustainable business and helping people make their lives more sustainable. He has been a volunteer with GHI since 2008, prior to becoming the executive director. He is a Home Energy Magazine Entrepreneur 30 Under 30 recipient and loves to kayak and drink craft beer when not greening homes. His credentials include LEED, APH, LFA, and GHP. And I'll pass it off to Brett.
Well, hi, thank you so much. I think I was requested to send a bio and I never did. So that was definitely me several years ago. But since then, there are some changes. So you'll be like, hey, wait a minute, that's not an old home. But hey, close enough. That definitely still was me. So again, my name's Brett Little. I'm actually now the education manager here at the nonprofit, the Green Home Institute. The Green Home Institute has a mission to empower people to make healthier and more sustainable choices in the renovation and the construction of the places we live. We are a small but mighty team. We have our staff, executive director now, Jose Reina, there on the left, and our program manager, Eliza, in the middle there as well. And I'm handling, I get to do the fun stuff, as I say, education. So yes, at one point I did own an older home that we significantly improved and received a Green Star certification on. Since then, I have purchased a different house and have done likewise. And so all the things we're going to talk about here today, many of them I've already done or I'm planning to do. So I promise I wouldn't ask you to do something that I haven't done. I've received many of these tax credits and used many of these programs. Pat will be coming on after me. I personally used Michigan Saves before in my other house to achieve my sustainability goals. So That was a long time ago when they first started. And so I appreciate their efforts, and he'll tell you a little bit more about that. And I've also used the previous versions of the Inflation Reduction Act credits when they weren't worth as much to achieve sustainability goals for my house as well. So you can learn all about those on our website and what I did and what I'm still working on as well. And Lauren really did a fantastic job. So I was able to remove a lot of my slides because she covered a lot of things. So I really appreciate that. And I'll just kind of summarize a couple parts. But this is an actual screenshot from the federal government's website. And I know, your accountant might like that because it's very formal, right? It's from the DOE. The IRS certainly is not going to get as geeky as the DOE is, but and so there's a direct link there, and we can send that out from energy.gov where you can see all of these tax credits. If you're still doing your taxes from 2022, there's what you can get on the left side, and then boom, here's what you can get on the right side. And on the left side, I've used those before on a home. And the crazy thing about the old tax credit was it was $500 maximum. One time in your life forever, only one, no matter if you had 10 homes, you could only use it once. Very silly. And so the Inflation Reduction Act came along, fixed that, and now you can reapply for, upwards of $3,200 each year. It's in tiers of $3,200, $2,000, and $1,200, depending on what you're doing and all the other stuff. And you can apply for that every year, as opposed to a one and done kind of thing. So that they've really fixed, that approach as well. And like I said, I've used the older versions here and got these credits both for solar and for home energy efficiency. And, in a lower tax bracket, I didn't think I would get the solar credit. And I just got solar anyway, because it was the right thing to do. But I was surprised that I was able to take advantage of the credit. So I try to, inform people that you might be able to as well. Another thing that we won't talk about today, but I'm going to briefly talk about, is using the refinancing and mortgage strategy, your own home, as a mechanism by which to finance your electrification and your solar projects. That's the tool I used. I refinanced my mortgage, and and no offense to any funder out there, but even with the rates being up, it's still one of the best, I think, financial ways to achieve your goals, because it's also a part of your home. And I increased the value of my home by doing these things by 3%. So that was a strategy I used. And so if you're buying a home, or going to buy a new home, or building a new home, use this process to fund your efficiency, and you can get a lot more done that way. And so that's how it works. You use the IRA funds, you use maybe the mortgage, maybe Michigan Saves, maybe a couple other things that come out, and it's called braided funding. They all come together to help you achieve electrification, energy efficiency, hopefully a net zero energy, zero carbon home. That's where we want to get everyone to. That's also healthy, right? And water efficient. So here's the tax credits. I'm going to take a little bit of a deeper dive into the Energy Stars website that gets a little more geeky on the types of products you have to get. It gets very, very specific. And they're still building this ship as they fly it, if you will, on what's available for these tax credits. So if you go to their website and you look at the non-business, so what's the opposite of a business? That's a not business. That's you, a resident. It's a little silly, but anyway, and you can see here all of this little a la carte menu of all the fun things you can do in your house. Most of it's electrification. That's where most of the money is going. And so if you click on one of these things on their website, it'll take you in a little bit deeper. So let's click on our very favorite heat pump water heaters, right? Everyone should have one now. It's easy. I put one in 2018, didn't cost any more money switching from gas, even though electric rates are higher. And so again, it's going to give you some very, very specific information, give you some information that your accountant's going to like, right? So they can help you figure out if you can get this. And then it's going to tell you on their website what kind of products are approvable for these credits. And so I use the heat pump water heater one because this one is built very nicely. The heat pump, air source heat pump, not so nice. The other ones, you get a checklist, an Excel document So they've got some work to do, but the heat pump one, they've really went out of their way to get that one built out quick. And so you can kind of see all the approvable ones, and the idea is that the federal government's going to keep that up to date as we go. So this is something we call the home energy efficiency pyramid. And so we refer back to this in the pecking order and by which you should make improvements to your home. Now, every home is different. Every home is in a different place, but on average, we find these are the things that are going to yield, that are going to be the cheapest, most do-it-yourself friendly, but they'll save the least energy, least carbon, and from a comfort standpoint, maybe have the least impact. Going up there, you're going to have more expensive things that save more energy, more carbon, take more work, less do-it-yourself friendly. And again, so that just depends on, again, where your house is at and where your needs and where your goals are. So before we even get into electrification, you need to start with awareness and understanding. You need to get your electric bill, you need to get your gas bill, you need to look at it, you need to assemble this, put it together and go, how much energy am I using? And then we would recommend heading over to the new EPA Energy Star yardstick program, which you can throw in 12 months worth of gas data, 12 months worth of electric, and then your home square footage and your home age, and it will spit out something called energy use intensity. That's how much energy you use per square foot. And it will tell you, are you in a really good place or a bad place? Because then you know how much work you have to do to improve your home, how much money it might be as well. And they give you some guidelines and to help you plan a project. The other thing that's really important is not to consider just how much energy you use, but when you use energy. And so I believe if DTE hasn't done it already, just like consumers has for us, they're going to force you into a time of use program, at least in the summer. And you can opt into more in-depth ones where, again, if you can keep your energy away from that peak time, at least here, it's 2 to 7. I don't know where it is for you all, but that's a carbon intense time. That's when plants that are placed in more urban areas or areas of color are polluting those people in those areas even more. So you can shift your energy away from those times. It's more carbon intense, more unhealthy for urban communities. And then also, save money that way too. So you might want to be thinking about that during your awareness session. You might also want to get a device that tells you exactly where your electric loads are. Doesn't work so great for gas. That's another reason to get rid of gas. You can't tell where the gas is being burned and when. You have no idea, but with electricity, we can get it down to the plug load and figure out where you're using power and make a plan to get rid of it. You also want to get a green home inspection done on your house. And we offer these. We've been doing them in Ann Arbor, and we can help you out. You can get up to $150 or 30% of the cost back for hiring one of our green home inspector teams to come out and do that energy audit, that home inspection assessment with you as well. And maybe the city at some point will have other benefits. Who knows, in the state. But right now, this is through the Inflation Reduction Act. Check with your accountant, of course. You might be able to get some of that money back for doing that. So our green home inspectors or energy auditor, I think you've got a fantastic auditor there in the audience with you, Amanda, I think, and maybe some others. So raise your hand if you're out there. But whoever they are, they can do these things, right? And so they're going to do a blower door test. They're going to give you information. Hopefully they're doing a Department of Energy home energy score on your house, right? Because what that's going to tell you is, again, based on the features of your home, it's going to tell you how well your home is doing, what the energy use and carbon use is of the house. And then it's going to put an improvement plan together. Now, this is key because Lauren was talking about this for that new rebate that's coming out next year. This will be tied to actual dollars, right? This will be real money up to, I think, $4,000 maybe if you do energy efficiency reductions through one of these modeling softwares. And so that's something we're helping gear up people in Michigan to start doing now. And so one of these systems, again, is just going to tell you how much energy your home is using and what you should do to improve it. And if you want to electrify, what will be the ramifications of electrifying? Could it end up, costing you more? And if so, should you do other things first? And it'll help you put an improvement plan together to figure that out. And so, yeah, we have folks that can help you out on our website at greenhomeinstitute.org. The other thing you want to do is get your heating and cooling contractor into your house right now to do a manual J heat load calculation. If they don't know what you're talking about when you ask them to do that, don't work with them, right? Or educate them, right? I mean, that's the other thing. We want to educate folks. So they could probably use the blower door test, right? Because you're a heating and cooling contractor. They're not lugging this blower door around, right? So they could use the test that we did, or Amanda, or whoever's in the room there, and they're going to take that data and they're going to throw it into their heat load calculation and then tell you if you're going to switch to a heat pump system, how big it should be, what the right size is for your house, or if you make improvements for your house, they can do that. So they can take our modeling and work with that, and do that now. Don't wait until your system is damaged or broken or falling apart, and get that calculation done now and get ready. So because this is an electrification event, we're going to skip across a couple parts of the pyramid here, but we have a full talk on our website, on our YouTube channel, if you want to check out more. First of all, the Energy Star has a really awesome video on heat pump dryers, heat pump condensing dryers. They're super energy efficient. I've personally had a condensing dryer that has no exterior exhaust. It just dumps it right down the drain. I've had one for a decade, works amazing. And then if you can eliminate that exhaust is just an air leak, it's a water leak, it's a pest entry, and it clogs up, and it can cause dryer fires, right? So get rid of all that, plug up the hole, get a condensing dryer or a heat pump dryer, and they're going to be super energy efficient. Right now, there's not a specific tax credit for that right now, but I believe under the ones coming next year, there might be something like that. And then also induction cooking, right? If you love cooking, then you probably hate cooking on electric. Fine, that's fair enough. So you're going to want to switch to induction. We just did a fantastic webinar with an organization who kind of had a cook who is an engineer there, and he took us through cooking some things and walked us through it. And so you can check that out on our website. What's really cool about this particular induction unit is it has a battery that comes with it. One of the second problems that people have with induction or with electric cooking is that when the power goes out, so does the system, whereas you can keep cooking on gas. So you can keep polluting your house when the power's out because your vent fan doesn't work anymore. Bad idea. So this has a battery in it, and you can keep on cooking for about 3 days of no power when the power goes out. And so that's coming your way soon too. You can check that out. We're anticipating all devices to probably have little mini batteries in them to protect against power outages. And then also, again, you're going to probably need to upgrade your electrical systems for these types of things, or the things we're going to talk about. So again, there's up to $600, 30% of the cost, to improve your electrical systems from the 25 home C tax credit available now. I believe this can also be paired with what you might need to do to get an electric car, which also has additional tax credits. And then I don't know if DTE funds some of that. I think they do. I know consumers pretty much paid for most of mine when I installed mine. So, if DTE doesn't do that, then tell them, please do so. Okay, so water heater. Now we're getting into electrification. That's the next thing on our list, right? So you can get pretty boring. You can get up to $600 for a high efficiency tank water heater or an on-demand water heater. But again, that's gas, and the on-demand water heaters can be very expensive to retrofit. There used to be the Green Dream a long time ago, but now we have the new Green Dream for water heaters, and that is the heat pump water heater. Here's a photo of mine. I've had one since 2018, never had any issues with it. Again, electric rates are higher than gas rates. They still are. And when I switched from my gas to my electric water heater, I saw no difference in cost. And so the way that these work is that they suck in air from the top, and then a fan pulls it in. It passes through a filter. So you got to clean that filter every now and then, very easy to do. And then it goes through a compressor, heats up refrigerant, heats the tank up, and then, gives you your hot water. And then there's a condensate line that you have to account for as well, that, dumps some of that water out. So again, these devices, depending on which kind you get, some of them are made right here in Michigan, right in our own backyard. But some of these have built-in systems that you can use your smartphone. And I get all sorts of data on mine. I can see when it's using energy. I can tell it when to turn down. and it can work as a time of use program. So every day my system turns down between 2 and 7 o'clock. That's my peak time. It just turns down, and rarely, unless I have a huge demand at that time, rarely does the system ever fire up at that time. So it's helping me, again, burn less carbon and stay, you know, off the grid, if you will, you know, during those peak times, at least from a water heating a standpoint. And again, this is the big tax credit, $2,000 or 30% of the cost for that heat pump water heater. So that's, you know, quite a bit. And I know typically the utilities do not allow fuel switching. So if you have a gas water heater, and I bet a majority of you do, and you want to go switch to electric, you cannot receive a rebate from your utility that I know of. Now, things are changing, but I know that, you know, that is typically the case. And so that's, you know, something that the IRA has sought to fix. So air sealing and insulating. So again, very important. This helps with comfort. This helps with health. Can't be understated. There's tax credits for this as well as for doors. And so we're not going to get into this too much here today, but again, there's, you know, people in the room who raise your hand can help you do this, you know, get the audit done, get the air sealing, get the insulation done. Again, if your water heater is failing, you're not going to care about air sealing and insulation. You need a new water heater. So get ready to get an electric one. Get a quote today. Don't wait. But if you've got some time, get that air sealing and insulation done this year. Use the credit for that this year. And then you can use some of the credit for the heat pump water heater before it fails, you know, next year, you know, with some of those home performance contractors hanging out there in the room. And with Michigan Saves, they're going to help you finance it. Okay, heating, ventilation, cooling, HVAC, right? That's the big, besides cooking, right? I understand, you know, cooking. Okay, that's a problem. You love cooking. You're not sure, you know, like Lauren said, use the top plate, use the single top plate, test it out, get your feet wet. All right, you know, I get it. I hear you. That's a problem. All right, but the heating side, this is a different kind of problem, right? You don't care what heats your house, right? As long as you wake up and you're warm and you're comfortable in the summer, in the winter, I don't think most of you care, you know, or your family, you know, cares about this kind of thing, right? The cooking, you care, you want it, you like the flame, whatever. I'm not here to judge, but the heating, you don't really care. So again, what you want to do, the first thing you want to do is you mostly probably have already oversized systems in your house. And what does that do? That drains the life of your system. In the winter, in the summertime, it's even worse, because what happens then is you don't cool your house and remove the humidity. And you've probably all got the Michigan basement syndrome like I did. And so again, your oversized air conditioning, you know, your systems are turning on, turning off, turning on, turning off, turning on. That's bad. We got my mom a brand new system. She's like, Brett, it keeps running all day long. It never stops. Something's wrong. Take it back. No, Mom, that's what you want. You want it running all the time. You never want it to stop because it's running real low, using less energy. You know, it's keeping the system life going. And in the summertime, it's dehumidifying the space and removing that moisture, which causes mold, mildew, and all sorts of nasty stuff. So you want to get that heating and cooling load. You want to call your HVAC guy or girl, whatever, tomorrow, right after this, and get this heat load calc done and get a plan together. Because when do the systems fail? You know, heating systems fail during cold weather, during extreme blizzards. That's when they fail. They don't wait until a nice summer day. They fail during the blizzard. And when does the AC fail? The AC fails in the middle of the July 100-degree heat wave. That's when they wait. You know, they hate, you know, they don't like us. And that's what they do. They're like printers, right? The printers, they always fail on me. And, you know, they fail at the worst time when you need to print. That's when your heating system's going to fail. So when it does fail, have a plan, because otherwise the HVAC contractor, they're going to try to sell you one of these, right? And you can get tax credits for it, sure, but it's got to be super energy efficient. They're going to try to sell you an oversized gas heater and an oversized air conditioning system. And, you know, that's partially because you're in a hurry, they're in a hurry, they got it on the back of the truck. You know, that's what's going to happen. So if you have a plan for a heat pump now, you'll be ready to enact it and it will be ready to go. So again, air source heat pump systems up to $2,000 credit for that. under the current 25 Home C Inflation Reduction Act. And, you know, the thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a cold weather climate certified heat pump, because I've seen ones that got installed that were not cold weather climate. And, you know, at that point, you're going to have really high electric bills because your backup resistance heater is going to kick in, and it's going to use a lot of power, right? If you have a cold weather climate one, I would actually say you may not need a backup resistance heater. I don't have one. And there was just one time during the middle of a cold snap when the Texas grid went down in February 2021. I remember, like, we couldn't get our heat up to 68. It was 64. Oh my gosh, I put on some slippers. Okay, and then it was up, you know, within a couple hours. That was the middle of the morning. So that was the only time when, you know, it was in the negatives and my system couldn't get me up to 68 degrees. You know, I'm still alive to tell you about it. So so anyway, these systems work great. And so the DOE gives you very specific metrics by which you need to hit when you purchase these systems. So be very careful that your heating and cooling contractor is getting you the systems at these higher levels of efficiencies, which is going to save you money as well. And then also comply with the tax credit. We really appreciate our friends over at Mitsubishi, because unfortunately the DOE's website, if you go there, it's missing so much information, and they're working on it, right? But our friends over at Mitsubishi have put together this list, and they kind of pair up all the systems they have in the South or the North on which products are viable that you can use. And so do other manufacturers as well. I think they're trying to come out the gate and try to help you figure out, again, what systems you can use. And then also, you know, the most energy efficient system on the planet, of course, is a ground source heat pump system, otherwise known as geothermal. And this uses a different type of tax credit. It's the 25D through the solar tax credit. And so this can be paired with the other tax credits without conflicting each other, to my understanding, but consult with your tax advisor. And so geothermal, you know, is the most efficient. It can be used to also heat water as well, and cool. But you know, it's going to take a lot of space of drilling and extra costs. So that's why they give you a significantly boosted tax credit, you know, on that. And then a lot of you might want to consider, hey, I have a furnace that works great. I don't have AC, or my AC is failing. You can get a dual fuel heat pump, and a lot of manufacturers have them now, and you can pair it with the furnace. And so what happens basically is the heat pump pretty much works on the shoulder seasons, the summer. So in the summer, it's an air conditioning, of course. And then it's in the shoulder seasons, it's heating when the temperatures, you know, like it is right now in the 40s or 50s. And then when it gets really cold, 30, 20 negative, then your gas furnace kicks in. And this is like the best approach to take from a cost standpoint right now, with the way that our rates are structured, with what I would call significantly low gas rates due to subsidization and very high electric rates due to who knows what's happening. But so anyway, now, unfortunately, the tax credit, to our knowledge, is not as nice if you go this route. So it's probably only, you know, that $600 for the outdoor heat pump serving as the air conditioning is my understanding, but we're trying to get more information. But again, if you're concerned about costs, these can all be modeled in the home energy score tools that we use. So finally, windows. And the only thing I'll really say about windows is that in most cases, brand new windows are very expensive. And so now they have storm windows on the inside that you can measure up through a device that they'll send you. You can install them all yourself. And you can, from my understanding, I'm told you can get the tax credit for it. So, and you can do exterior storm windows as well if you like that. And so this is a much more affordable way to also reduce drafts in your home and improve the efficiency of your windows without the expense of brand new windows, because they're just so expensive. And the tax credit doesn't help too much on that. And then finally, once you've done all these things, now is the time to get the solar and the batteries. 30% tax, non-refundable tax credit on those. I've received it. It worked. I can tell you that, but you have to consult with your tax advisor. And, you know, the more you electrify your home, the more solar you're allowed to add on, because the utilities typically want to see a plan in place that you are only using as much solar as your demand is. And so the only way to increase your demand is to switch from fossil methane gas over to electrification, and then you can put more solar on your house. And there's a lot of fantastic solar installers and a whole solar program in Ann Arbor. So that's it for me. Greenhomeinstitute.org. We have auditors who can help you out in Ann Arbor. We've got tons of education and training and webinars we do that are free resources on our website. And we really appreciate your time for being here. And if there's anything we can do to help, let me know. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Brett. And we will transition over to our last panelist, Pat O'Boyle. So as a brief introduction, Pat handles recruitment and training of skilled contractors for Michigan Saves. Michigan Saves is a PSC-managed nonprofit that finances energy-efficient work, and he seeks out those individuals willing to advance Michigan's energy systems. In this role, he finds himself amongst a group that cares about equal access to efficient homes as deeply as his grandmother did. Pat's PSC superpower is that his noted ability to use his energy to save Michigan energy. So Pat, take it away.
We also have a good marketing team.
Sorry, just one moment for technology. And then presentation. Oh no, what happened? Oh no. Okay. Are we good? That's this one, right?
There you go.
Great. Okay. Good. Great.
Hello, everybody. How many people are familiar with Michigan Saves in general? Oh, this is easy. Perfect. So we are an energy efficiency and nonprofit green bank. So we can do energy efficiency and renewable energy improvements throughout the state of Michigan. We are isolated to the borders. So while we have partners outside of Michigan, we do all of our work within the state of Michigan. Oop, I didn't want to go forward yet. Just trying to get my thing. We have 6 lenders that operate within our program, and then we have roughly 1,000 contractors, again, 2 of which have been kind enough to join us tonight. And essentially, we train our contractors on our program, and we work with our lenders to have a streamlined process on the back end. So if you're working with one of our lenders and one of our contractors, we hope that the process is going to be very smooth, as opposed to calling someone randomly off the phone and then calling your bank trying to get financing available for some of the measures that Brett was talking about, solar, any of these improvements, air sealing, insulation, heat pumps. We currently, that bottom number is I'm proud of that number. Our team has taken that. We had about $8 million and some change in grant funding that we have turned into $476 million in improvements with residential properties and businesses throughout the state of Michigan, also municipalities, nonprofits we work with as well. I focused most of this on the residential side of electrification. Here's kind of the nuts and bolts on the residential side is we have unsecured loans up to $100,000, and we'll focus on kind of the $5,000 plus or the $25,000 plus, because most of these projects, unless you're, as Brett mentioned, you want to, if you can, stack the projects or the braided financing above these numbers. It's great to piecemeal the projects, and in many cases, either something breaks and your feet, you need your slippers, or you're looking at something more comprehensive like what Amanda does, where she does these audits at your home and says, your furnace is this old, we see that you need insulation up here, but you really called because you wanted to do solar down the road. So an auditor or a home performance contractor can help you walk through that process. And when the HVAC company is out there as well, they can make these recommendations to you of the next steps to go forward. I have a very similar slide coming up. Our fixed rates are still very competitive. They have gone up as rates have gone up, but we are still looking at between 5.9 and 6.74% up to 15 years, which I actually pulled some Google numbers today that I'll look at later just to show you guys what, if you did Brett's did it at the right time where he was able to do that home equity loan at probably 3-4%. Now, if you need a new roof or something, you're going to be looking at a much higher number than that. Whereas these, there's never prepayment penalty either. So if you do, your heat pump breaks in December and you need to get this loan and pay it off in April, when your tax returns come back, you're welcome to do that. And our lenders have all agreed to that throughout the program. We also have an electrification program. We've been working closely with the city of Ann Arbor, and I don't want to take the credit. Mac McCabe from my team has been spending countless hours on this document. It looks a lot like the one that Lauren had showed us earlier, that just basically walks you through what is suggested in the electrification process and some commonly asked questions that come up. I do have some of these available. We can always send them along via email. One that I think Brett even hit on, contractors that I'll give, say, old school potentially, that say heat pumps don't work in our climate. Well, some of this that we have built into the training and education process, and someone like Tom could walk you through what he sees in the field on a day-to-day basis. It's helpful for what I always say in these, and solar especially, because we've had challenges in solar, and we want to make sure that education, if you have resources, that you guys in Ann Arbor are very privileged to have a good resource of the city behind it, local individuals that have been through this. But if you have Brett or Lauren or Michigan Saves to lean on, or Michigan Saves contractors, use those before making a purchase like solar. It'll be probably the second or third largest purchase you ever make. So don't do that without becoming completely educated on the program. We have actually taken, again, Mac and the city of Ann Arbor have developed a training program for electrification where contractors can choose to take 5 tests of information that's become recently available about the electrification process. What that then does on our contractor page, so if you are interested in getting a quote from a Michigan Saves contractor or a contractor in general, whether you're going to use financing or not, you can go to our website, which is michigansaves.org. You can click in the upper right, it says find a contractor, and you can search by zip code, and then whatever certification, or what heating and cooling, we actually have an electrification where it'll sort to which contractors have the expertise in which you're looking for. There are currently 22, and you don't have to be an electrification, you don't have to work in only electrification issues. So the HVAC contractors can take this if they'd like to. Home performance contractors, we actually have a window contractor that wanted to learn more to make sure they were educated about the future. So that's a great, we're proud of that program as well. I'm going to skip now over to solar. I spend a lot of my time in solar. So this is the Michigan Saves overview of what we've accomplished in solar in the last 11 years approximately. One thing that's crazy here is that we've seen in the last year and a half, the size of the solar systems that we've been installing have gone up. I think that's because we used to have a cap of $40,000 for our program. Now it's 100, so therefore the size of the system was capped at a smaller number. And then this battery one is something we deal with every day. And I think both Lauren and Brett mentioned that starting in 2023, the federal tax credit, ITC tax credit, can actually provide a 30% credit on storage, battery storage only, not being associated to that. Again, as Brett carefully said multiple times, please consult your tax accountant before moving forward with that. Not everybody can get their 30% tax credit, which again, from what Lauren was speaking about and Brett was speaking about, is different than the rebates. There's 2 separate deals there. Make sure you understand that that's not one and the same. We're happy to help with that as well. And then we have a little side note that the finance amount and cost per watt for battery projects, a majority of batteries are installed with solar systems, but we're seeing some places where solar doesn't work. The middle of the woods, a condo association that doesn't allow whole home generators, places like that where we're actually seeing some battery storage by themselves. This is what we're here to talk about, is what does it look like for me to do this? And I used a pretty generic interest rate of 6.49, which is kind of one of our middle rates right now. This is our average size solar system currently, and it's a 15-year loan. If you do have the ability to re-amortize that loan, and I'll try to go slow through this, is you will be eligible over the course of 1 year or multiple years for up to $8,859.67. That can be applied free of charge at any of our lenders at any time. You can put down 20%, 30%, 35%, and they will re-amortize your loan to new monthly payment for that point moving forward, which then allows you to essentially have a much lower monthly payment for the remaining X period of that loan. But it does keep your interest rate fixed of whatever you qualified for today. So if they go up between now and then, you stay at the same rate at that point in the future. I'm happy to stay after. We can talk if anybody has those questions, any solar questions at all. I'm happy to stay after. But please use your resources available to you. That's the best way to go through this process. Don't try to learn everything on your own if you have these resources available. Obviously, you showed up tonight, so you're attempting to do that, but we are happy to help you. And again, whether you use Michigan Saves for your financing or not, please use our contractor resources. We talk with them every single day. They're a very good group of individuals, and we're happy to have them there. Thank you. That's it for me. Oh, we got a question already? Yeah, fire away.
So you had listed there that the average system was a 10K system. What is that as far as average size of the home? What does that relate to?
It's all about your electrical usage. So if you have a heat pump water, you could have 1,000 square foot home and everything electric, or a 4,000 square foot home and everything gas.
So well, that's why I'm kind of asking on. So I'm curious what the average ends up being of the size of the house.
I talk to one of my solar contractors. Our solar contractors get multiple quotes, and or talk to this individual here who's in houses every single day, including today. There is no average. That is just an average size of the physical amount of system that we have put in over the last 11 years. And it's gone up, again, 2 years ago, it was 1.5 kW less than it is today.
All right, we will have a comprehensive Q&A in just a moment, but oh, you're totally fine. Does anyone else have any questions before I give a brief wrap-up presentation? Cool. All right, so I just wanted to reiterate, we have two big upcoming events through OSI, specifically related to both electrification and sustainability overall. So the Home Electrification Expo is going to be August 11th from 4 to 9:30 at the Farmers Market. And then our next sustainability forum will be Renewed Renewables, and we will cover a lot of solar resources and technologies that are within the system. And we'll have our OSI solar representative, Julie Roth, presenting. So there are a lot of things coming through OSI related to electrification. A lot of those resources and events are kind of upcoming, and some of that isn't completely ready for the public quite yet. But we do want to highlight that we are planning on having a home energy advisor program that will hopefully be launching in 2023. And we have a pilot that's going to be launching in the next couple months. And then that will also be paired with a home energy assessment. We also want to call attention to Rewiring America. They have a really great tool that can calculate those IRA rebates for you. And also just information is limited within that, just because of how the IRA funding is trickling down. But it's definitely a good first step and good source as you go along. And we also wanted to highlight that we do have some municipal rebates coming through the climate millage that was passed this past September. And some of these rebates can be paired with those federal resources. So we want to call attention to that and make sure that you guys stay tuned to how you can best use those resources. And then here is a QR code that just links you to the OSI page for electrification. And then this is all of the contact information for all of our panelists tonight, including the contractors that have joined us, Tom and Amanda. And with that, we will dive into our Q&A. Great. And for any in-person attendees, if you do have a question, Zach will be around to pass off the microphone.
Great, ready?
Okay, so we're interested in solar, but question for us is when? And there's a whole bunch of factors that are going into that. First of all, we just got windows this year, and that was a huge expense. But say 5 years from now, we need to change our roof over. It's still a good roof. We look at that. We look at how the technology is going to change over 5 years. We're looking at how long will some of these incentives be available and funded. And I'm wondering if someone could address what are the things that we need to look at in order to make a decision of when do we do this? Okay.
You want to chime in? You want me to chime in?
Go for it. I also see Brett nodding.
Yeah,
so...
let Brett chime. Let's listen to Brett.
Thank you. So yeah, great question. You know, again, I kind of point back to, again, having that assessment done to your house. I love solar, I have solar, but you know, solar is the last thing you want. Windows is the second last thing that you want. So you want to make sure you've got the other items improved on your house as far as efficiency, electrification goes, depending on how old your systems are getting. So I would recommend that first, especially since you had said that your roof is going to need to be replaced in 5 years. I would probably advise, you know, that you wait until the replacement of your roof to do that, especially because by that time there may be solar shingles that you can do, and then the solar is just the shingle. That already exists around the country, but Michigan is sort of behind as far as getting access to those. So.
I'm a little puzzled. So there's tax credits and there's rebates. Is it double dipping? Can you get a rebate for something as well as a tax credit?
You can, but my understanding, even as Brett mentioned it, many of the actual rebates where you're getting money back, not just a tax credit, many of those won't be fleshed out or available until 2024. Although I will point out, Ann Arbor has some rebates that as I understand it, might be available as early as the summer. So at that point, you could triple dip.
I would also just add that a lot of the rebate programs, to my knowledge, are income qualified programs. So you may be able to double dip technically, but maybe not, depending on where you land.
That's a good point.
And I'll add in that if I understand my reading of the 25 home C tax credit that is available right now, it is very stringent on being able to double dip with anything. It doesn't really want you to do that. So that's just my takeaway from it. So.
And is that the tax credits you're talking about?
That is the tax credits. Yep. So the non-refundable tax credit, it basically states like if you're getting a utility rebate, that you can't double dip into that, and that you can only get the credit after you deduct the rebate, for example. Consult with your tax advisor, but that's sort of the way it's worded with the IRS, so.
But the DTE rebates aren't super huge for most of these upgrades that we're talking about, so you could probably get both.
And all of it sits with outside of Michigan Saves or other financing. So that's independent. The rebates and tax credits still exist regardless of your funding source.
Thank you. So solar panels have longevity of 50 years. What will happen to them later on? And then, if geothermal is a reverse solar, how deep should be the drills, and would Ann Arbor have like a drilling machine for all of us to borrow and to reduce the cost? And then, if there would be geothermal, what is the best flooring? Is that like ceramic better than the wood? Can you please guide us a little more, technologies on Earth?
I can do, as far as the recycling on the bottom of this resource, that is one of the things that was included in this is Next Cycle Michigan. So that's currently available. I would say that I would hope there's more resources available within the next 50 years as we see more of this stuff.
But the solar panels, they don't biodegrade, what we're gonna do, we're gonna have a pile of them? Is it good for the nature? We're gonna put, with so many of them not working in 50 years, what will happen? A big pile of this, we were gonna do them.
Brett, you have any other answers? Like I said, we have this resource available too. That's something that's being talked about every single day because the first panels that were installed on a fairly mainstay basis are 30 to 40 years old at this point. So we're going to start seeing the first ones probably come to life. They do degrade slightly each year. So the panels that you put up today, and that's kind of to your question, they're ultra efficient compared to what they were even 5 years ago when I came to this world. So we're seeing improvements there, but they do have a slight degradation year over year. So that's something that they'll be accounted for, and we will have to have that solution when we're ready to be there.
Unfortunately, most of the things we make do not get recycled, sadly, and so we need to remanufacture and remake everything, not just solar. So everything is up for par. We need to make everything fully recyclable, and solar is one of them. So it is important to be concerned. But yeah, just like anything, you get a toaster, what happens at the end of its life? Does it get recycled? So I think of it that way. We have a lot of work to do. So good, important to think about.
What is the geothermal first? Did not answer.
I'm sorry.
I didn't catch.
Can you please walk on the geothermal, how deep should be the drills, any potential for earth shakes, earthquakes?
So the type of drilling that gets used for either a vertical style loop or a horizontal style loop, it also matters if it's using water from a local water source like a pond or a lake, or whether or not it's using what's called a closed loop. All of those, since geothermal has been used, whether in large commercial places or even a large geothermal unit for a neighborhood to share, so far there's nothing out there that says an act of God, an earthquake, things of that nature will cause rupturing or problems. It's mostly the materials are longer than 50 years. The materials used in underground pieces, typically you would actually have to go and purposely dig at them or attack them to make them a problem. And that's true of both horizontal style, where maybe they might stretch out 300 feet, or vertical, sometimes 200, 300 feet is what happens.
Sure, one more.
So are those pipes made from plastic or ceramics, or what are those pipes?
You could
made
say
of?
plastic. Some of them are PEX, some of them are a type of PVC. But yeah, in that family of materials, yes.
I was going to address a couple things that she asked about. One in particular regarding the recycling of the panels and Next Cycle. Our company is actually a member of, as a Next Cycle partner. I can tell you that there's a lot of attention to recycling solar panels. I know it's also something of interest for us, as we have roughly a 10-year-old system that we're looking at upgrading, and I'm concerned about upgrading it to, as you said, severely more efficient panels. What happens to the old ones? So there are quite a few companies out there that are really addressing converting those panels back into usable materials, because they are definitely somewhat rare and very energy intensive to source and very detrimental to the environment in sourcing them. So putting those back into service is huge, and that is definitely a big part of recycling in general. It's very much on the radar. So I can attest to that. Specifically, we also have geothermal wells that are roughly 75, I think ours are 75 feet deep. It depends on the depth or where you're at and how far they go. But we're at such shallow depths there that they're not a concern anywhere like fracking or anything like that, where you're going astronomically deeper. That potentially creates problems underground, but this is a much, much shallower system. So that's not something like I've never heard of any issues from geothermal, creating any kind of ground shakes, I think, and stuff is what you were asking about. So I don't know if that helped or not.
Thank you for all this. There was mention made of solar roof shingles. Is that possible? I mean, we're being approached in our house that we should get a new roof. It's been there about 20 years and doesn't seem to be in too bad shape, but are there solar roof shingles? How do you get them? How do they work in terms of over just the south face of the roof, or what's the story?
Yeah, Brett.
Sounds like a great idea.
Brett can have it. I actually just talked with GAF last week, who's one of the people who's producing solar shingles. They actually were meeting last week about it. They have not released them to Michigan yet. They don't have the production supply where it's coming to this region quite yet. It's literally, they are working on them. They have them implemented in other states and probably other countries. Brett, you may know that. Tesla also has been doing a solar shingle. It just hasn't been prevalent here yet that I'm aware of. Brett, you have anything else on that?
Yeah. So, GAF, if you go to their website and go find some of their certified installers as far as just roofing materials, go and call all of them and bug them and tell them you want solar shingles. That's what I'm doing. All of the West Michigan ones, I'm going to bug all of them. And they said, kind of just take that approach for now, the sort of bottom up approach. So that's one thing. The other thing is Luma is right in your backyard, right there on that side of the state. And they manufacture solar shingles. I don't think they install any of them in Michigan, probably because there's no demand and it's expensive, is my understanding. But they're there. They've been around even longer than Tesla, who's actually winding down, to my knowledge, their solar. They're getting rid of that arm. And then there's also Certainty by Saint-Gobain, who makes solar shingles. And I'm trying to reach out to them to see what they're doing in Michigan. I don't know, but those are at least a few. And I would suspect with the Inflation Reduction Act dollars coming, you'll see more solar shingle manufacturers coming online. So
I think Luma is Allen Brothers, I believe.
Yeah.
I'm going to call quickly on the one. There are some questions on the Q&A on Zoom, and I see that some of our online panelists have been already addressing some of those, and that's great. Thank you so much. For those who are present and or watching the recording, we'll repeat a couple of those questions. One just came in about more info on the Ann Arbor rebates, as Tom mentioned those, and wondering what that will cover. For those who can't see me, I'm Zach Watt-Smith. I'm in the Office of Sustainability, and we are working on some of those rebates right now. Those are coming out of the millage, the climate millage that was passed by Ann Arbor residents just last November. So we are building those rebates. We're trying our best to model them off of other successful programs and rebate structures that we've seen in other cities who have climate action millages similar to ours. So keep an eye out for those. We're hoping to see those late summer, but they should be forthcoming. And we're trying to pair them also, like Tom mentioned, with a lot of the rebates that are already out there. But we want it to fill some gaps, but also to be able to get folks closer to attaining the things that they're trying to install in their homes. So to the person who asked that online, sorry, we don't have the answers for you yet. Please stay tuned. Keep an eye on sustainability stuff on the sustainability website, and we'll keep you updated.
I'm probably going to ask him possible questions because
Time.
I have a house that's a brick colonial on a golf course, and I've already replaced the roof, and I've replaced, what else did I do? Oh, I've replaced all the windows for very beautiful new 21 windows. I probably have to sell the house within a couple of years because I'm just too old to maintain this. It's just too large for me. And so I think what I'm asking is, can an advisor suggest to me what sort of things I can do that won't be so expensive that I can't just pay for them and pass that on to the buyer? Let's see, I thought of something. What was it? No, I've forgotten. Oh, I know. I don't have, I do have gas range and a gas oven, so I figured that's one of the list. But I thought a counselor in this area could say, well, you could afford to do this, 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 and this, and still sell the house, you know, to reclaim some of that expense in the next 2 years. So that's the impossible question.
I'll take a stab at it, but I also know that I think the Office of Sustainability has an advisory program too, so I'll go first, I guess. So we could perform a home energy audit, or you could contact a certified home energy auditor to come out. There's plenty great ones that service this area. And based on the results from their assessment of your unique, sounds like lovely home, we could make some recommendations based on the findings. There might be some opportunities to incorporate some upgrades into the value of your home. So energy efficient homes should be worth more and should sell more. There's different avenues to make those improvements happen that way.
The other thing is, so far, no one in this golf community has been allowed to put any solar panels on the roof, and I would like to be the first one.
Awesome.
to do it. Has anyone ever done that before, tried to convince a community to give up its rules and allow you to put something on the roof?
A client of ours did, and they were successful. We've had other clients that were not. So, you know, each story is unique in that aspect. I think you have a pretty supportive community around you, so you might have some extra support and oomph for the fight. You sure can.
I'll just chip in a little bit more to build on that. Thank you. There are some things that the Office of Sustainability are working on. The Solarize program that has been in existence here since 2019 and has been wildly successful. We just crossed the 4 megawatt mark of solar installed on homes. This is one of the largest barriers that the Solarize program runs into are HOAs and bylaws. So we're working on drafting some proposed language that certain board members can take to their own HOAs and try to work within their own communities to get some of these bylaws and guidelines changed if they so choose to. So we're trying to support it through that, but then also the Home Energy Advisor program that Amanda mentioned is something that we're working on building out right now. It's something that we are looking to pilot this year in a few homes, and the Home Energy Advisor is a program that would help you identify all of the room for improvement in your home. So low-hanging fruit all the way up to, I really loved Brett's pyramid. So even the things that are at the top, like solar and batteries, but then everything in between, help you identify those in your home and help you get connected using the likes of Michigan Saves to make those things happen. And to really build a plan for you, kind of a roadmap or a bike map, maybe we like to say instead, to getting to full electrification and full efficiency. So,
if you offer papers that I could give to my HOA that might convince them, that might change their mind, I would really need that to help.
To help answer your impossible question, I would also invite you to speak to the other homeowners and see if you can't find some brothers and sisters. I would recommend also finding contractors like Amanda or myself that can help do a mock-up of sorts of what it might mean for your home and allow that to be part of what you present. I would encourage you to not go it alone at all. I think that if you have people in the space around you that agree, you'll have a lot more luck. Just like Amanda, we've had some success. Part of my world is also like backup generators, and I realize they run on natural gas, but there are a lot of homeowners associations that don't want that. And we've been successful in drawing up plans. Here's where it would go. Here's what it would look like. Here's how we can make it look less like a big piece of equipment. So certainly talking with solar contractors might help you, but I think generally, if that is your ultimate mission to be the first, that's awesome. But even just getting them to loosen the grip on some of the regulations, helping them see how that can be important, in this century. So. Oh, awesome. I volunteer as tribute. I volunteer, yes, I'll help you.
excellent. Let's do maybe one more question in person, and then maybe we can revisit some of the Q&A from our online viewers. Okay, I'm going to cheat and say I have two questions. One, and you choose to answer them or not, I guess. One, a generalized question for A2ZERO, but also really going bigger, going to Rocky Mountain, and building off of the last question. Are any of you specifically working with assessors of properties to help them understand the value of these upgrades and additions and all of those things? I know to some degree, actually was just talking to Brett about this somewhat recently. We had our house recently appraised, and this is no joke, our house was appraised well over a $200,000 difference between two different appraisers. One that had no clue on what was going on, and one who actually really understood what was going on. So on the Rocky Mountain, so I'm looking on the largest level here at Rocky Mountain being here. Are you guys working with it, whether there's any kind of national regulations or controls on that assessors are mandated to become more educated in the things we're talking about here today? That being question one, and then the other one I can take sort of off. We are actually, our system, we are a net zero house. The system's a little over 10 years, and we are looking for upgrades and repair on our system. The only thing really we're missing are the batteries out of that whole pyramid. And is there any funding currently available to help us in that? So we'll go back to Michigan and say, well, I can talk to you afterwards. So we're just focused on the first question.
Brett, you want to take it first? I know you're excited to talk about appraiser issues.
Well, Paula and I just texted you because I'm like, I didn't realize you had such a huge discrepancy, and I didn't catch that part. So I'd like to learn more, but it is, It's hard. I've been able to eke out more value on 2 different appraisals, but it took a lot of work to do it. Part of the conversation is talking to your lender and saying, hey, this is important to me. It's important to me that the appraiser understands green and is willing to at least look at it. Now, they can't ever pick an appraiser. They can't select one, but they can put appraisers in the lineup to some extent that are willing, or maybe even certified if there is one, certified green, and or at least willing to entertain the idea. And so you can do that. You can reject appraisers as well. So make sure you have one that's at least willing to entertain the idea. And then perhaps that's what you went through, Paul. And then, you know, from there, they have to be given all the information and all the resources on what's going on in the house that might be an energy audit, because they don't really probably want the liability of those things. So they like to defer to other programs. I know my most recent appraiser deferred to my Pearl certification, to my solar report, and then they did some sort of crazy calculation that included the cost of gold and oil and some sort of magic thing, and, you know, waved their hands around, and then I had a 3% increase in value. And I can't sit here and tell you that I understood what happened either, other than that. So we have a long way to go, but the more homes that, you know, get solar into the appraisal and the more conversations you have with your lenders, we can start hopefully getting more appraisers that understand this. So.
And online, we had a couple questions.
Oh, sorry, could I just add one more
Oh,
thing?
yeah, go for it.
I would piggyback on what Brett said about Pearl. Selfishly, I am a Pearl certified contractor. So Pearl connects contractors, real estate agents, and appraisers, and will issue an official appraisal addendum, not only for solar, but also energy efficiency upgrades. So at the time of the appraisal, you would hand that official document, and Lord willing, that individual who takes it knows what they're doing with it. So it does help connect some of the dots.
Perfect. And a lot of our online questions are about a recording. So this event will be recorded or has been recorded, and that will be available on both the A2ZERO sustainability series page, and it will also be available on the CTN YouTube page. So that's through the Ann Arbor District Library. Well, 2 different things, through CTN and also through the library. And then we also just want to call attention, if you do have any other questions for these panelists or for OSI members, we'll be sending a follow-up email with contact information and also some of the resources that have been sent out today. So great, thank you all so much for attending. We hope to see you next month as well. And please continue on in your electrification journeys.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.